Welcome to Sib Spot. Today's Reddit stories are from Am I the A-Hole? Story 1 is by Virtual Yogurt 52. Am I the a-hole for bumping into a woman holding a baby in the lazy river? If you're not an American, you may not know what a lazy river is. It's a little man-made river that goes through a water park, and they're usually like 4.5 feet deep, and the intention is for you to get a tube, and then you sit on the tube and you can kind of you're in the lazy river. You go around the entire water park, basically. It's not an actual river, and it generally doesn't go very fast. I was at a water park last week, and my friends and I went to the lazy river. To my knowledge, I thought you were meant to lay in a tube with your belly facing up and just kind of let the water push you through the course freely. This particular lazy river has certain areas which are much faster than others, so I found it difficult to maintain control and bumping into other tubes as much as I'd like. There was a woman, without any tube, just walking slowly in the lazy river holding a baby. Unfortunately, the course of the water pushed my tube right behind her. I tried to paddle myself away, but the current and other tubes now behind me prevented me from being able to move myself. I ended up nearly right behind her, bumping into her a couple times with my tube. She turns to me and shouts right in my face, "You're bumping into me and I'm holding a baby!" And I wasn't expecting it, so I panicked and apologized and said I can't control it and started clawing at the concrete to try to stop myself, but I couldn't. I feel like I may be the a-hole here because I argued back rather than finding a solution that actually helped in the moment. I feel like a huge a-hole and a complete idiot. I keep replaying the events in my head. What should I have done differently? Should I have tried to get out of my tube and stop myself? I also feel like that would have bumped her more as I tried to get myself out of the big tube in a crowded part of the lazy river. I can't stop thinking about this interaction. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? What in the world is a mother with a baby doing walking in the lazy river? You're meant to be on a tube being pushed through, and generally you're allowed to walk in it, but if you do so, you know you're going to be bumped into. It doesn't matter, they're going to bump into you, and if you're protecting your baby, you're fine, but to go off on somebody who's on a tube, this mother is an absolute piece of work. Get your child out of the lazy river and go to a pool or something. Maybe she doesn't know how they're meant to work. The lazy river generally is not meant for people to be walking in, especially not with an infant. She should be in a small wading pool where there's not people on tubes being pushed through constantly. And OP, you said you might be the a-hole because you argued back. I don't see where you argued back in this. I honestly wish you had argued back. I want to hear some of the things you said to them. Why are you in the lazy river with an infant? This is not meant for people walking around with their baby. Go to a wading pool. Go wade in with your child. You do not need to be in the lazy river with an infant. That would be arguing back with her, and you would be in the right for doing so. Down in the comments by Tangerine Bouquet. All I can think is, what the F is she doing there with a baby? Not the a-hole. If it's recent or if you have any question, just bring it up to management of the lazy river. Anything that happened was entirely on her. That's just weird and probably very much against the rules. Under that by Gigatension. Yeah, I swear there's an age limit in most lazy rivers for this reason. I'm pretty sure you can't even lay on a tube and have a baby on top of you in a lazy river because you might go over and that's a liability for the park. I'm not sure on that, but I would imagine that's a dangerous situation as well. If any of you are parents and you've taken a baby, tell me about it, because I've never actually seen that be a thing. Our next story is by Telno5035. Am I the a-hole for telling my coworker to F off after she said, "This is why you're single"? I'm a 32 female and I work as an interpreter. Don't worry when you see my atrocious grammar. I don't interpret from or to English. It's my third language. One of my work colleagues, Hannah, who's a female in her late 30s, asked me the other day what my plans for the weekend were. I replied that I was going to the woods with my club to shoot some arrows and had a ballet class on Sunday. She was taken aback at that and asked me, "How many hobbies do you effing have?" Swearing is something she does a lot, so it didn't sound any alarm bells in my head, so I replied that a few. She heard me speak about my classes before when I was asked about evening plans or when I said no to going to a pub after work. Despite my reply, she wouldn't drop it and wanted me to list all the classes I do. So I told her that I took Italian classes, ballet beginners classes, archery, pan flute classes, and swimming. She asked, "What about your volunteering? Did you stop that?" I said no, I still do it twice a week. And that's when she said, "This is why you're single." That surprised me. I've never complained about being single. I'm quite content with it, so I don't know where that came from. I asked her about it, and she just said I'm trying to relive my high school days, and no guy would want a woman that runs around in the woods with arrows and then pounces like a child in a tutu in adult beginners ballet class. Could I have been more polite? Sure, but she annoyed me. I told her to F off, and I left the room. Now she's telling everyone what an a-hole I am and that she was only trying to give me advice because I'm immature and will be single forever if I don't get my stuff together. It's been almost a week now and she's got some of the ladies on her side and they're eyeing me. One even twirled like a ballerina badly behind my back as I was leaving the lunchroom. With so many people agreeing with her, I had to double check if I was right to tell her what I did. Did I overreact? Was I the a-hole in the situation? Am I the a-hole? You're not the a-hole, and this woman actually is super toxic. And the fact that she went to all these other women and gossiped about you, she's a typical adult high school brat is what she is. I think you need to tell somebody about her. You don't get to gossip to everybody else and make them kind of bully you in a sense when you're at work. That is entirely not okay. And then she calls you immature when she went gossiping to all her friends and then they started bullying you, basically. These women never grew up. They are absolute children. This person is living a pretty fantastic life, doing all these different things. They have all these interests. They're bilingual. They speak 3 languages. They go to archery classes. I always thought it would be kind of fun to do archery. I think it would probably, injure my muscles pulling a bowstring back, but I think that if I were pretty well off financially, that might be something I'd want to do. And the other thing I always wanted to do was take pilot lessons and become a pilot. Of course, I have not so great eyes, so I'd have to get laser surgery on my eyes first. But this woman is giving her a hard time. What, because she's not getting some D? Hooking up with a guy and being in a long-term relationship and potentially getting married and having kids. That is okay for some people. It's not for everyone. And this woman needs to F right off. Down in the comments by SageGreen98. Not the a-hole, but she is creating a hostile work environment. She doesn't get to decide how you live your life, then get offended by you telling her, in effect, to mind her own business. Yes, you told her to F off, but as aggressive as she was being, it doesn't sound like she would have taken anything less than you being blunt and saying what you said. You need to report this to your Human Resources Department or file a complaint about her creating hostility at work because of an exchange she pushed, then assumed you didn't like being single. She's probably one of those people who think the whole darn world needs to pair up and have a romantic partner. And now she is having others demean you, tease and mock you for living your effing life. That is seriously messed up behavior, and she needs some serious consequences for starting crap at work and continuing to stir the pot and then bringing in other coworkers to help her stir that crap pot of hostility and bullying. Underneath that by Heavy Sand 5228. She's crossed the line, both professionally and personally, and it's important to try to nip that in the bud immediately and create a paper trail. Also, your hobbies sound super cool, and anyone mocking them is probably jealous. Down underneath that by Cousin is Crazy. The people mocking her are the ones who are being immature. They sound like middle school mean girls. OP's hobbies have no bearing on their lives whatsoever. It's real, look at that B-word eating crackers energy. Adults who act like this are pathetic. And underneath that by F the Roses, $10 says those women peaked in high school. Office mean girls usually did. Yeah, because that was the height of their social status back in high school when they were being mean, the peak of their status, they decide to keep doing that stuff later. That's what makes you feel the most important and feel the best. Your personal life is none of their business. Go to some higher up about it because it's just going to get worse if you don't. And it may get worse if you do, for a time, but if they continue to do it, they'll lose their job. Our next story is by Repulsive Title 9397. Am I the a-hole for announcing my wife's pregnancy when my brother and sister-in-law were still grieving the death of their newborn? Edit. As some people are saying, I argued with him. I hadn't mentioned it, but he said, there's no need to gloat about it. I sure as heck hope something like that doesn't happen to the child. You better pray for it, not to die by crib death. And other stuff which resulted in the argument. I'm a 34 male, and my wife Amanda, who's 32, got pregnant recently. We were yet to announce it, but before we could do so, we learned about the death of our nephew. My brother's newborn had died, and he informed us about it. We went to his house to offer our condolences, and they were in a really distraught state. Here's the thing. I was buying a few supplies for my wife, related to her pregnancy, when I had gotten the announcement, and as I rushed to my brother's house immediately upon getting the message, we still had the purchases with us. Upon reaching there, we offered our condolences and remained present for quite a while. It seemed as if my sister-in-law, Emily, was either pretending to keep her composure or looking for a topic to divert her mind, but she casually asked us what we were doing considering the purchases and what we had bought. I hesitated to answer, but she had already noticed some of the stuff in the bag and asked what those were. It was pretty obvious that they were related to the pregnancy, and although we said it's nothing, she seemed curious to know. So we told her that she was pregnant. Emily began to cry when she learned what it was, while my brother began to accuse me of announcing it when they were dealing with the literal death of their child. He got into a huge verbal sparring with me, but I told him that we were about to announce it anyway, and that I hadn't wanted to lie since Emily had already kind of noticed what the stuff was. Am I the a-hole? So people down in the comments were discussing back and forth why they would bring this bag of stuff to their house. Apparently these people don't have a car of their own and they were in a taxi. So, it's a pretty bad situation. I don't know. I feel like you could have, you really didn't want to lie, you wanted to be honest with them, so in that sense you're not the a-hole. But you saying, well, we wanted to announce it anyway, that kind of indicates to me that you might be the a-hole in this. But they did ask what's in the bag, and if you had lied to them and just said, oh, it's nothing, oh, it's for a friend or something like that, they may not have known that you were lying. That's a white lie. It's one that you kind of... it's okay to get away with a white lie once in a while. The general consensus from the commenters is that you probably should have taken that bag home first. You didn't have to rush over there right then with all this baby stuff in your bag. You wanted to go there immediately and help them out with, I don't know, just being there for them. But you should have been considerate and said, this might bother them. Let's take it home first. It would have been maybe another hour and then you'd be over at their house and it would have been fine. So, yeah, I think you were a little thoughtless in this. I don't think they're a-holes for getting offended. I think that you didn't come there to announce your pregnancy to them, though. But showing up with a bunch of baby stuff in the bag, just not a good move. Our stories for today have come to a close. Until we meet again, have a lovely day.